Hey fellas, welcome to another Kitbash tutorial video. This time I'll show you how I converted the Primaris Ltd Amulius. The miniature was a event exclusive at Adepticon last year. He was for a limited order or made to order some time ago. Don't know if you can get him still. He usually comes without the camo cloak. Most of the parts that I used are from the Shadow Spear box, especially from the Sniper Sergeant, and there's a bit of green stuff work involved. I'm not sure if I cover this in this part of the video or make an extra part later. We'll see how far we come. So, let's see what parts we need for this. First, the miniature of Lieutenant Amulius would be a great start if you want to kitbash him, of course. I fixed the part with his feet and the base onto a wooden cube for easy painting later, and apart from the back and front of Lieutenant Amulius' body, you will need the front piece, the cloak, and the backpack, from the Shadow Spear box. Sniper Sergeant, I use this head from the Adeptus Custodes, and the left arm in this case will be this modified bolt rifle that the customer built, for whom this is a commission work. As you can see over here, I have cut away the pins that usually snap fit the miniature together, so I can test fit more easily when it goes to replacing the front armor. Let's get started. Okay, here we go. First to note is that the backpack and the back of the cloak fit together already, so we could either glue this in place or keep it off so that we can handle that cloak easier. We don't need to bother with that part at the moment. That's what I wanted to say. We might need it later when we determine into which position the cloak should go. The rim around here should go over here, so we might only have to cut away that part that usually takes the backpack, get it flush so that we can attach the cloak, and we might have to cut out the cloak over there to accommodate his elbow, and we will have to resculpt mostly this area later too. So the original cloak goes together over here, which fits a usual shoulder pad quite nicely. We'll see how that works with the Forge World one, and as the left part over here usually doesn't go over a big shoulder pad, there might be or there will be the biggest part that we redo with green stuff, as mentioned before. So the trick is to cut away the armor from that piece and then cut out the exact amount of plastic from the front piece of the lieutenant. Before we do that, we will take off the gorget to use that later on. Yeah, that's the 1, 2, 3 main steps we will have to do. So let's tackle the cloak first. There isn't very much to take off from that backpack. The part that's mostly in the way is the elbow, but as we won't or don't want to lose the elbow, I'll cut away a slice from the cloak. And I'm working my way around that piece. We really want to have that cloak where the backpack goes, flush and in line with the back of the miniature. We might be able to trick it a little bit, but not too much. As I've done this kit bash over a year ago, it could even be that I have cut away the elbow a little bit. I'm not too sure, so I'll just try to go along. And we definitely have to get rid of that piece here. Trying to stay on camera. We could go much rougher in this case, because we will resculpt the most part of it. And I'm quite sure that I have done exactly that, but this is a good way, to train your skills in getting parts together as smoothly as possible. There's that fold in the way. The good thing is that the cloak, the plastic is much thicker than the actual cloak would be, so it doesn't really matter. If we make it thinner here and there. What does now hold us back? I'm not sure where exactly the problem is. Some more then. That's about it. And on that go, let's get rid of that little pin here. And use some blue tack to get a rough impression. Where we are at the moment. I think that's pretty much okay. As you can see on the original, the backpack is slightly turned, but as it is obscured by the main bulk of the miniature and most part of the front isn't visible, the eye doesn't really see that the backpack is slightly misaligned. So the new version is even better a little bit. Something like that. Nice. Next thing is that front. We want to use the whole part over here where the head is attached. We don't need that little gripply thing here. That's where usually the sniper rifle attaches. Don't want to break that part here. It's hard to do underneath the tablet. We can do that cut diagonally with the razor saw, and we also could do a cut over here and then scratch out that area. Sounds like a plan. Here we go. Hope I'm staying on camera with this. Okay, that's about that. Next step will be to get that piece to the front of his chest. Let's clean up before that. Okay, the next step will be to get the gorget off the front of the main body. I have to clean up my razor saw a bit more frequently, soon as it gets clogged with plastic particles. It doesn't cut very well. I've cut away a little bit more of that piece to make sure I have all the details, and it's totally okay in that case, because we will replace that whole part over there with the cloak. Now, to get this done properly, we need to remove this area first. After that, we can dry fit the part with the cape batter and then see where exactly our line at the front goes. You could possibly do this with a Dremel much faster than I do, but I prefer my totally hand-driven tools. I feel that I don't have the control with a Dremel on that small scale. There's not much room to work with it. The risk of injury too great, in my opinion. If you can, of course, hold the miniature down in a vice-like aperture, something like that, then it would be no problem. I'm rather going longer than cutting my fingers. So while this, well, this isn't really a complicated kit bash, nor is it an easy one. While it's quite easy to see what is converted on that miniature, it's not that easy to achieve. Okay, so that whole part over here is quite obsolete, so we simply go through that. I might have told this a lot. It looks as I would put a lot of pressure down on that blade, and I'm putting more pressure on it than I would on a regular knife blade. That's true, but actually it's not that much. The edges and the angles work very well and totally to my advantage in this case. So I have the rough area cut out where I want this. There's a little more filing and cutting away. The thing is to constantly dry fit that part until it fits properly. If you make a mistake in this step, you surely can quite easily cover it with green stuff later, and even if you cut away too much of the chest plate, you would be able to cover that later. I had to resculpt that part of the winged skull and that didn't work that well. I really don't really like that part. So I will put some extra effort into getting this as clean as possible. But I think it's not necessary for this video. So we'll go to the next step. So I've cut away a bit more and I'm pretty much close to where I want to be, but that guy is giving me a hard fight. To minimize the chance that I will cut away too much, I won't go straight down the middle of the parts with my cuts, but rather bevel the edges of that cloak so it slides over that area, and then doing the same over here. This looks very dangerous. I appreciate your fears, but as said in some videos before, I always have full control of what I do with my knife, and securing it with all 10 fingers, so that even if I can only slip with my knife if my pressure is bigger than, and unexpectedly bigger than, the resistance of the material, and my hand or my fingers or the way of the knife isn't blocked by my fingers or by muscle. And as I have these 2 fingers on the model and solely go with my index finger and thumb, I can't extend wider like that, so it's impossible, even if I strain, to cut into the opposite thumb. Be very careful. Don't try this. Always be aware of what you're doing with your fingers, with your knife. Don't take this lightly. It can be quite dangerous. All those of you who are excellent with the use of green stuff, just cut away as much as you want from the miniature and resculpt it later. I'm totally happy with cutting and filing and being spared all that green stuff modeling later. When we are done with this for about, let's say, 90%, the remaining 10 can be achieved by using a bit more plastic glue than usual to melt the parts together and get a nice tight fit. This might be as good as we get. Something like that. You see, it's going together piece by piece. Here we go. Nice enough, if you ask me. Even better. Okay. Using some blue tack, I have put the main parts of the miniature together, and you can see roughly what parts we will have to resculpt. The cloak doesn't align properly in this area. It comes a little bit closer when we finally glue the parts together. The front area will also go a little bit closer, and we might get rid of that piece from the original cloak over here and resculpt that too, along with that part that goes over the shoulder pad. And differently to the original conversion that I did, this guy has to look to the left, away from the gun, to make it look cool. If we go that way, he might look at his counter, at this ammo counter, or like I have a nice gun, but the composition doesn't work. Looking straight, nah, it's quite boring. We want, in this case, we want to look him in the face and see the gun, armor and cloak all together. In this case, we'll look at the exposed shoulder pad and the blade, or have a nice sideways look when viewing the miniature from the front. So the positioning of the head always is a crucial point in converting a miniature. So let's glue this boy together and see what we can do with green stuff. So let's see if we can wrap up that green stuff part of the conversion. I recently bought Ltd Blue Yellow, which is green stuff, as you can get it from Games Workshop and other companies, with the difference that you get both parts separate so that it does not harden where the yellow and blue connect. There are other brands that where you can get this, but at the moment I'm not sure which ones you can get a stripe with a cut in the middle where the two materials do not connect. Also, before I go to sculpting the cloak, I beveled the edges over here so that I can more easily sculpt the connections to the original model. I've also attached the gorget, which needs a bit of cleaning later. So let's do this. Okay, so there are various tutorials on how to work with green stuff out there, so I will keep this quite short, focusing solely on how to get that cape sculpted. Apart from a few modeling tools, you will need a bin of water or two, make the green stuff less sticky and protect your tools from gooing up with the stuff when you're sculpting it. Pushing this into the rough space and form I want it to have. I will have to get this a little bit higher so that it's not really aligned with that part, but not too deep down. And you may have noticed that I've put the rest of the green stuff that I do not use at the moment into the water. That usually helps that it won't harden early. So as you already may have noticed, the beveling out the edges was, as we Germans like to say, for the feet, because I'm going way higher with the cloak. And try to hit the original folds of the cape. I'm giving this a rough form at the moment and will then leave the green stuff a bit to cure, so I can get it into shape a little better. So I think that's about good for the moment. I will now leave this to cure for maybe 10 minutes. And check if it has the right consistency to work with. I will fill up these other parts over here in a second and third go to not ruin this part accidentally. Okay, enough pushing around. See you in a few seconds. Okay, so after 10 minutes roughly, the green stuff has cured a little bit and I have it much easier to get it smooth. Maybe it could still use a few more minutes. But I think I can make do as is. The trick is to be very gentle. Can use a bit of water to get some extra smoothness. And then just, in this case at least, follow the existing lines of the cape. I'm trying to emulate the shoulder pad that lies underneath. Tablet's getting in my way again. Sorry for that. The good thing here is that it probably will be painted in some camouflage pattern, so it will be easy to cover the areas where the green stuff merges with the original sculpt with a bit of paint. Oh, come on. I'm working in small circles where I want to smooth out, and then drawing lines to get the edge flowing, something like that. Probably off camera right now. No, I'm not. Yeah, that's how to sculpt that cloak onto that miniature. As said before, there are various green stuff tutorials out there on YouTube. Check out, for example, Modern Synthesist, to name just one. take your time. Don't be afraid that you could damage something. At this stage you will be able to correct all mistakes for quite a while. I even recommend that when you think you're done and that it's good now, we'll give it a few minutes again to cure, to get the water you've applied while sculpting to evaporate, and then you will see what you've sculpted more clearly and will find little areas where you still can correct some mistakes. So yeah, all the connections that I won't be able to sculpt properly, I will cut later with a sharp hobby knife. And as said before, the rest will be taken into account when painting the model. And the process of sculpting and getting the putty into form is rather the same on all the other parts of the model. So yeah, I'd say that's it. I will fiddle around with this a little longer. You will, as always, be able to see pictures of the finished model on Instagram. So have a look over there. Stay tuned and be excellent to each other.